back again, coming back again to you, right, in relationship with always and everywhere. Yes? Now, again, do you acknowledge that you, separate from every other being on this planet, right, are separate from every other being, and therefore, what does that say about you and the eternity, right, of time and the infinity of space out of which you come? I mean,
because we've also talked about previously, so it's like a paradox, because we've talked about previously
I
that
know. I want to stop with the paradox. What we're going back into is what is the implication of that? You see, not just it's a paradox, and then we go back to Trivial Pursuits, right?
Well, the paradox to me is that we were talking previously is that everything is atoms, and once you break it down to its core form, it's all basically the same. So are we really disconnected from?
Now that would reference our bodies. What we are talking about now is awareness and consciousness. Yeah. So, but just to start with, without any reference of, well, I don't want to say that. So, one of the Zen koans is this guy Layman Pang, who was. He was not a monk, he was not a monastic, but he and his wife and his 2 kids all got enlightened, the whole family, right? So Layman Pang approaches Ma Tzu, and Ma Tzu, Master Ma, was one of these 2. Master Ma was pretty much the equivalent in Christianity of St. Paul and St. Peter. Right? He disseminated Chan Buddhism throughout China. He was very, very pivotal in that way. Same with St. Paul and St. Peter, you know, after they nailed him to a couple of pieces of wood. Charming. Yes? Yeah? So, goes to Master Ma, and he says, what would you say to he who keeps company with no thing? Now, what do you make of that statement? Who keeps company with no thing?
I guess well, since we're talking about it, it makes me think just in my mind, in my realm of consciousness, I'm the only person that I don't know how to really describe it, because is it?
Try.
Is it perceiving? I'm the only person that's perceiving this realm of inside of my own consciousness. There's not 2 of me experiencing my consciousness.
No, that is exactly right, but that is also true of all of this.
It is just us experiencing.
You cannot see with my eyes. I cannot see with your eyes, right? So in that sense, you understand, right? You are keeping company with no thing. You understand?
Yeah, I cannot see with your eyes is a very
any of the animals that you have, or your mom, or Zach, or anybody, right? Anybody. Now this is true of each one of us. Yes, So in that sense, we are alone in always and everywhere. Yes or no? I mean, does this require faith in Jesus Christ or the Buddha?
No. I mean, we just it's pretty logical, and we just broke that down.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I'm going to take exception to the word pretty. How is it only pretty logical instead of logical?
It is. Yeah, it is logical.
It is, right? Yeah. We can both agree that this is logical. Yes? Now, the reason why this is so important, once again, is in our defining, right, what is the point of coming back to the here and the now? Now again, superficially, it can allow us to get off the insubstantial drifting mind, which keeps us basically in a state of chronic discontent. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Which again, does it make sense to live like that?
Yeah, it seems like a waste of your time and life if you know there's an alternative.
Well, that's why we're doing this. That's why we're talking about this. Because there is no alternative. There's many alternatives. God Almighty, in the midst of COVID, in the midst of our lunatic political situation right now, in the midst of, apocalypse now with Don't Look Up and all the rest of it, right? Last night, when all of us were looking at Kawasi Asui in that book, right? How was quality of life in that moment?
There was no bad going on.
Right? And was there, if I may, don't stop there, was there a bunch of good?
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, it was not just beautiful because obviously the pictures and everything that it was are beautiful, but I guess it transcended from the pictures into the moment where we were able to appreciate the beautifulness, and that's a good quality, you know. That's
I,
a good thing.
and all of us then were in this commiserate state of being uplifted by the beauty of this man's art. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Well, as opposed to life's a bitch and then you die. Please, just for a second, just consider this.
And what I don't know if this helps that, but his art, like you said, is the everyday life. So we were commiserating in beautiful art of just the everyday life, which kind of comes back to we're just appreciating being alive,
Hi,
opposed to
hi,
the opposite.
hi. And again, take out the word just.
Yeah, we are appreciating to be alive, opposed to life's
Hi,
a bitch and then you die.
hi, hi. Now again, not to diss people, but what is the norm of our kind in your experience? To revel in wonder and beauty?
Yeah,
Is that what we normally do?
yeah, very rarely.
Right?
Yeah,
Well, isn't that heartbreaking?
yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's why this guy he's not spiritual or anything like that. He's a young guy. He's maybe like 5 to 10 years older than me, and he just he got popular on Facebook and Instagram and stuff, just making these videos of him just being so just infatuated with with an idea, and he would talk about this idea and just be so infatuated and so happy. Like, can you imagine, And
Excellent.
his name is Adam Silva or James Silva or something. I can find it, but and his ideas would get almost into the esoteric and the spiritual and stuff like that because
You kind of can't help it.
yeah, right. and but he was just so excited, and it's very rare, to see something like that.
Well, again, in the company that I keep, you and David and, all the people who I consider my people, my Sangha, you understand? There's lots of awe and wonder.
Okay, yeah,
Lots of it, lots of it.
yeah,
And again, it then we get a kind of nourishment, right? That then allows us to acknowledge that our quality of life is really kind of exquisite. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Even
It is
though we're all working, we
yeah,
all work.
just mundane, you know. We everyone says mundane. Everyone says life is mundane, And it is, I think I was just saying it's much more than that. It's much more than just mundane.
Yes, yeah, I would say it is. It is, fall down on the ground, impossibly miraculous. Yeah, but Alex, but that's just me.
But so getting back to what I was thinking is the question that you asked me was
Yeah. What would you say to he who keeps company with no thing, right?
yeah,
And that is you. That's also me. It's paradoxical. You
it's
dig it?
all of us. Yeah,
Hi, hi. All of us being sand flea to sperm whale too. You feel me?
yeah,
Right? So understand, in this acknowledgement of ultimate solitude, paradoxically, right, it allows us an affinity with all other singular expressions of life, all of them.
we are all sharing that same solitude.
Hi, hi, hi. Exactly right. Exactly right. One,
Yeah,
one. Now, if I may, just being a little bit clever, what do they say? They say God is one.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
logical extension. Then what are we considering?
Yeah. I
Are we?
mean, no, I
Go ahead.
think it's a really good way to put just even without invoking spirituality, just invoking
Logic.
not yeah logic, but I'm trying to think like I guess like a more esoteric way of looking at life, which is that we all are God because we all share that one unique expression of solitude that
I, I,
we'll never we're all sharing with each other, but we can also never share with
right.
each
And
other.
that's the paradox. Isn't so again, it would in order for you to perceive totality, even though you cannot conceive of what that means.
Yeah. Yeah.
I cannot conceive of what that means,
Yeah.
right? I cannot. But even in my lack of being able to conceive of this thing, right? I mean, do you have relationship with the Big Bang or not?
I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, I would say yes because I'm
Let's just think about it
experiencing.
right here, right now. Think about it for a second. Think
Yeah.
about it. Yeah?
Well,
Actively think about it.
yeah.
If
Like,
everything comes out of the Big Bang, right? Right? How is it that you could not have relationship with it? Do you
yeah.
see what I mean? Well, dude, that happened now. The astrophysicists are saying, the astronomers are saying that happened 13.5. When I was young, it was only 8 billion years ago. Now it's 13.5, right? So again, that's an amazing reference of time, which again, we cannot begin to conceive of. Yes? But again, is it a fallacy for me to say that you have relationship with the Big Bang?
Yeah. No. No. Yeah. It's just a. I mean, it's a semantical thing, right? I
No,
guess. So,
no, it's not semantics at fucking
well,
all.
if someone were to argue with it, if someone were to argue with why,
Okay. All
yeah,
right, but that's not semantics. It's not semantics,
yeah.
right? And again, please, please, if you argue with me about it, I'm down with it. Please argue with
No,
me.
I mean, I have no argument. No, I have no argument. I was just trying to think that if someone didn't agree with that, the only thing that they would be disagreeing with is the language being used. But I think the statement is true. Is that
Well, then the language being used is what allows for the consideration of the statement being true.
yeah,
And so therefore it's not semantics. Do you understand?
yeah, no, I understand. Yeah,
Yes, and but again, we can continue to look at, if it does lapse into semantics, right? Then we're back really into sophistry. Do you see?
no, I
Right?
don't think it is semantics at all. I think the statement is true, and I think
All right. So,
I
so
don't have
with
anything. Yeah,
if it's okay, with that statement being true,
yeah.
right? Isn't that a little bit of a vaulted like relationship?
What do you mean vaulted?
Vaulted, exalted, like big.
Grand, yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely, yeah, definitely. And I don't even think that you have to go with the Big Bang. Just with we talk about it, and just in terms of the cosmos, or the universe, or everything, being in relationship to that.
And the only thing that offends me is the word just.
Yeah, just okay. Yeah, I don't. I that's
Just
yeah,
just the universe, just the cosmos.
yeah,
Yeah. And again, this is not to diss you, but understand,
yeah.
we are trained to speak and therefore think and therefore articulate reality in a very limited way. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely.
As in, I think, therefore I am? Which I'm sorry remains one of the dumbest fucking things I have ever heard. I swear to God. Yes, and what that means is that insubstantial drifting mind, what you and I have referenced for now over a decade as the roller coaster of random thought, which we live every day, and it's filled with sophistry,
Just
right?
just doesn't lead to anything beneficial. Yeah,
Doesn't lead to anything,
yeah,
except complaint, mostly. Yes?
yeah,
Wouldn't you agree with that?
yeah.
Right? Now, in part, we're trained this way, you see, which is a terrible training. It's awful. And the point of many, 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 many of us over the decades, over the centuries, over the millennia, right, is to say, we do not have to stay tied down by these tiny ideas. And this is Shakespeare. There are more things, Horatio, in heaven and earth than all your dreams of philosophy are made of. That is an astonishingly important sentence. I swear to God. It's an amazing sentence. Yes?
I mean, in essence, like the most basic form, he's saying that we can't even conceptualize what is out there.
I,
What's really
I,
out there.
what's out there, what's in here, what we are, none of it.
Yeah, yeah,
None.
yeah, yeah,
And we come up with these puny, superficial little ideas, once again, as in, what are you? I'm an American. Well, no, I mean, I'm sorry, but at the least you're an earthling, for Christ's sake. Yes? Now, why is that important and not semantics? Because if you are an American, right, then the us and them is already there. If you're an earthling, right, then everybody is included in that.
Yeah.
So this is not the same thing, and it's not semantics. And that idea, just the idea, right, can take you into a commiseration that articulates the planet.
What do you mean by that? Just it articulates kind of
No.
like how we can all live in the planet.
Well, again, as an earthling, my cousin is a sperm whale, right? My cousin is a Ukrainian. My cousin is a Russian. One of the things I really love about YouTube with all this bad press about Russia is all the Russians seem to be the ones who take in big cat predators for companions.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen many videos like that. Yeah.
Like Messi with that beautiful Russian couple who also took in a cheetah, right? There's another Russian guy watching him this morning, and he took in a bobcat.
Just like a wild bobcat, or like what do you mean?
That's a wild bobcat, and now the wild bobcat, the footage was of him patting and making this bobcat purr just the way a cat does. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. Yes, it was just exquisite, right? So that is an expression of earthlings.
Yeah.
Right? So the potential companionship that might come out of that idea, as opposed to I'm an American, or I'm a Ukrainian, or I'm a German, do you see, which is divisive?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really serve any good purpose.
No.
Besides the powers that be protecting their own little,
their spot, their part of it, which again leads to warfare and all the rest of it, Yes, so once again, ideas do have potency, and it isn't just semantics, but the thing is that the ideas that we've been trained to use and not go beyond them actually is a terrible trap. It's a horrible trap, and it turns life into this tiny, tiny little thing, right, that then again causes us a sense of redundancy, of mundanity, of burden without reward. Yes?
Mm-hmm. And do you think that we do it because it's easier, or because because that's all we know? Like we've just been trained that way?
It's what we've been trained, Like we are trained to say that humanism is one of the most enlightened expressions of modern man. Yes.
Humanism. And just what does humanism mean? Like
humanism basically started in the Renaissance in America, in the Western world, right? Where again there was a reference that human endeavor, human idea, human fallibility, all of that, has its place. And this was an answer to the organized religions around the world, all of them, saying that, we are perfect and we are here to, subscribe to the dictates of God, and then God will love us and then we go to heaven, right?
So it's kind of a contrary to religion saying that we are okay. And
yeah, it was a counter. Again, it has merit. There's merit to it, but we got to go into it more because, again, existentially, the outcome of humanism is nihilism.
Yeah, it's going too far to one side of the scale.
Hi. And this is what we do. This is what we do. We do pendulum swing. We never come into, you remember lesson on balance. Not karate only, all life have balance, you dig? Right? We don't do that. So this is what you and I are doing, right? Based on the influence, again, of thousands of people through our history who have used their lifespans, right, to try to figure out a larger reference for the gift of life. Huh?
Yeah. Huh? So what were you saying about humanism, though, that it came... before you were explaining how it came to be, you were just explaining.
Yeah, well, I mean, historically, it does it, with that amazing time in Europe, right, of the Renaissance, right, which means rebirth. Yeah. right? You know, and there again, with instead of the clergy just dictating the the parameters of what it was to be a human being. Huh? Yes, you know, and in that decrying things like art and you know, literature and all that stuff.
They were
Investigation.
bad, or say they were good?
Yes, yes, they said it was bad. Yes, they said it was
Bad,
bad.
yeah.
As in, you know, the church condemning Galileo or Copernicus, or on and on and on and on and on and on and on. This is all around the world, by the way, organized religion, right? So humanism was the answer to, again, the ever constricting ideas that came out of organized religion.
Yeah.
You know that I make a distinction between organized religion and mystical religion.
Yeah.
Right? You know, you and I have been at this for a long time now. Yes? You know, so humanism saying that human endeavor, human expression is, you know, it is equally as valid as religious expression. Now, on a certain level, that is true. That is absolutely true. Yes?
But we're saying that in the neutral the neutral meaning, that they are both valid to have a good balance, rather than they're both valid as in you don't need any religion, you can have all humanism,
or all religion and no humanism.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So again, but this is why the Asian model and Taoism mostly, right, they were the first to trumpet, to celebrate, to expound upon the balance of good and bad, right and wrong, blah blah blah, balance. Yes. So again, religious speculation is supposed to be about each individual's relationship with whatever it is that made everything. Would that be a fair reference?
Yeah. Have you seen the movie Silence by Martin Scorsese?
Yes. And that was true, by the way. And the guy who persecuted the Christians was Tokugawa Ieyasu, who I revere. Right.
Yeah. So what did you think about the whole movie, and what was the message to you?
Well, again, I've been aware of that for 20 years before the movie came out.
Why is the story so important then, I guess?
Well, again, it really isn't that important. It happened 300 years ago, in Japan, I mean, it's Scorsese once again making a sophistic movie, right? I'm sorry, but the answer is really nothing at all. I mean, if we want to talk about religious persecution, we could do that all around the world. It's happening right now in India for the fucking minority of Muslims. See? Yeah.
So that's what the message was about. It was about religious persecution, because I understood that, but I didn't understand why this needed.
It was also about the nobility of these people sticking with their theological foundational convictions, even in the face of being killed behind it. That's also what it was about. Yes, which, by the way, is true of the first 200 years of Christianity. The original, and Christian was a derisive name. It was like hippie or something, or beatnik, right? It was a divisive name. And, for many, 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 many decades, beginning with Nero, right, the Christians were all killed.
Yeah.
So they were a very, very fucking noble bunch. God damn. Yes. Yeah.
Well, so it didn't really even get into, because there was the scene at the end with the Liam Neeson, and he talks about the Japanese culture, and I thought that was really beautiful. But outside of that, I didn't really see a whole lot of to me, it felt like it was cool to see this movie take place in Japan, but it didn't really have a whole lot to do with Japanese culture and religion. It was more about Christianity.
And the reason why Tokugawa Ieyasu, did it is that he was terribly afraid of the influence that was coming out of, basically Northern Europe. And actually, it wasn't Northern Europe. It was the Portuguese and the Spanish.
But as we can sit here hundreds of years later and look back in hindsight, he was very right to be a,
Yeah, he was right, but that should not allow him to kill 100,000 people.
definitely. And there was also lots of bad things that came
Now,
from
by the way, I revere Tokugawa Ieyasu. I do, right? In the same way that I revere Gandhi, right? As a world leader, but Gandhi made terrible mistakes, just terrible mistakes, terrible, right? But in the face of a life lived, you understand, right? His qualities, his positive expressions, his endeavors far outweighed his flaws. I mean, far outweighed his flaws. Yeah? Even though he imposed his value system on a nation of people. And no politician should be allowed to do that. That's why people don't like autocracies.
Yeah. Yeah, so at least you can acknowledge that. That's important to be able to acknowledge that, that even though there's a person that like, nobody is infallible. We have all, you're going to have trouble finding any person that is like maybe Mother Teresa, but who knows? Maybe she did something bad too, Who knows?
I mean, Mother Teresa, they were going to saint her. The Catholic Church was going to turn her into a saint, and then they backed off from it because she said, as an old nun, I don't know if I believe in the organized religion of Catholicism.
Yeah.
So probably not a good idea to make her a saint.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. She might be a good example, I don't know, of someone who's, hasn't done anything bad, or maybe she has done something bad. I don't know, but I feel like it's
well, if I may, based on the dogma of Catholicism, she told all the people in the slums of Calcutta that they couldn't use birth control.
Yeah.
So again, that at least gave her job security, because in every generation there was going to be then more terrible, starving, ill people in Calcutta.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah. And is that a good thing? I mean, there's probably a lot of arguments that
no, that's a bad thing. See, again, as Stephen Gaskin said, religion should not insult your intelligence. Now, that does not mean we throw it all away. That means we cherry pick, to use the term of our time, right? And we separate the bullshit from the gold. Yes? Hi? Love thy neighbor as thyself is golden. You dig? Right? The Crusades, not so much.
Yeah, basically plundering and killing. And
my 44 years of martial art training, sublime. The outcome of it, horrible.
I mean, not for you, like you haven't, not for you personally.
The skills that I've gained are horrible skills.
Yeah.
They're horrible. They're horrible. I know about 150 ways to cause terrible pain and death to another human being. I mean, there's nothing okay about that. The lovely thing about good martial art training, if you'll excuse me, if anybody hears this, right, as opposed to MMA, is that intrinsic to traditional martial art training, by the time you get good enough at it to actually do terrible damage, part of your teaching is you don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
It's so sneaky. It's just beautiful. Yeah. As opposed to MMA, which is now championing brutality and arrogance and cynicism. Yes? And then it doesn't matter how good, like that lovely Forrest Griffin. I just loved him, man, right? He's the one when he became the world champion, and Joe Rogan said, right, you're the world champion. And he went, yeah, I'm the world champion now. Yeah, right? He goes, that's not the point of this. The point of this is this beautiful discipline. The point of this is the brotherhood that is formed through this thing, is this lovely thing about pushing beyond your limits, world champion. Someone else is going to be world champion in 6 months, right? Dynamite. Yeah. Beautiful. That was beautiful. Yes. Yeah. I will always respect him for that. Yeah.
Opposed to what sells now is,
which is terrible. Yes, which is terrible brutality and arrogance. Yeah.
He has no humbleness or respect, or I mean, maybe I don't know about him in his own life, but on the battlefield, you know, when he was fighting or talking, he was not very humble.
The deal is that a couple of years ago now, right? He was at a bar and some old guy in Ireland dissed him and he beat the shit out of him. You know, it's like, you know, then your knowledge, what you somebody brought me this kid who wanted to learn kung fu, and his self-restraint was so limited that I told his father, I can't do this. I can't. He is going to be of danger to others.
And how did you see it? What did you perceive that made you feel that way?
Well, he had no control over his emotions at all. And again, he was, if you'll excuse me, he was terribly spoiled, right? Terribly spoiled. Yeah. So that he thought that any idea he had, just because he had it, was a valid idea, right? You know, no matter how stupid it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, there was a lot of stupid. I mean, holy shit. But he was also terribly violent. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can see how those things, don't go well. Yeah.
I'm not going to teach him how to blind somebody.
Yeah.
Because he will.
Yeah.
He will. Yeah. You know, again, in all the years, and the outcome of being able to kick ass was never the reason of my thrill of becoming a martial artist. And again, the only 2 times I've used it on the street, nobody got hurt, and I won.
I think that was probably my downfall, or my not downfall, but maybe a weakness in my martial arts training, is I was so anti fighting and anti martial arts that I probably wasn't applying enough application. You know, like.
Well, really, the reason why, you know, when I stopped being a landscaper, which you know, in my late teens and early 20s, was basically, I didn't need to go to a gym, right? You know, landscaping will make you buff enough. I swear to God, give you good cardio and all the rest of it. So then when I went out of, you know, blue collar into white collar work, when I, you know, basically. You know, after India and after living in the ashram for 3 years, coming back into the world, and then I started running that alternative high school. Yeah, you know, then I began looking for some way to exercise because I was beginning to get, you know, lax. Yeah. So I tried jogging and I went to the gym, and it just bored the shit out of me. It just bored me, man. You know. And jogging made no sense to me because, again, world beat as an earthling, you know, all the, you know, the earthlings outside of human beings, when do they run?
Like, I see what you're saying. Like when they're getting chased by an enemy or like a prey or whatever.
Right. Or remember Louis C.K. before infamy when he said, can you imagine what it's like to be a predator? The only way you get to eat is you have to run something down that's running for its life, he says.
But I mean, I'm sure it's exciting, you know, in its own right. Your heart gets pumping, you know. the adrenals get pumping.
Again, to me, I'm sorry, it is an existential statement. Leave it to our kind to come up with that, right, as a form of running. Yes, now, by the way, I told you, you know this, a couple of years ago, I was practicing skipping. And you can cover much more distance skipping than you can jogging. Much. With each skip, you can go about, really, once you get into it, you can go about 15 feet, right? Yes, and it's fun. It's fun. So in any event, I tried these different things, and I did. I got the endorphin high from jogging and all that stuff. I get it, right? But again, then I went to, I won't go into how, but anyway, I bumped into my first sensei, Sal Lombardi, and I watched one of his classes, and it was like, they were doing forms, they were doing kata, and unlike Bruce Lee, I love kata, right? Because it's like flying. It's like flying. And again, you use your body in so many different ways that all of the muscle groups get worked beautifully, right? And in a very varied way, and you learn how to kick ass, right? And in our world, right, that's not a bad thing to know, right? And then like Mr. Miyagi, why you study karate? so we don't have to fight.
Right.
And I'm telling you, the 2 times on the street, it just because I had great teachers, what bubbled up in me spontaneously was a way to de-escalate the situation, right? You know, letting the other people know that potentially I would fuck them up if they continued to mess with me, but I didn't hurt them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was very satisfying, dude. I got to tell you, it was very satisfying.
I mean, yeah, it's difficult to be able to like to get into like an altercation like that and then diffuse it by you know showcasing your talents but not
Right.
using them.
That's exactly what I did both times. That's exactly what I did. Yes, right. And it was like, oh shit. Okay, okay, yeah, you know. And that is the martial arts of, again, you know, genuine martial artists. Yes, because fighting is stupid. You know why it's stupid?
Because what, you get hurt or I mean, yeah, right.
So stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just reiterating what I've said before, but maybe a little bit different. Is I think I've always been too soft, and that's why I didn't totally apply myself at the martial arts practice. Is like I was too soft in that at that time.
I understand. And I didn't really care about that. I just liked you moving your body and focusing in that way.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you know that martial art training required, just like any other quality training, learning how to play the flute, for God's sake, is all gong fu.
Yeah.
Right? It is aligning with polish through repetition. That's what it is. And that is a valid use of life.
Yeah.
Right?
And the only time I've ever seen something similar is maybe like a dance routine, but that's not easy. Like to remember the sequence of moves and to get them in the right order every single time and do them correctly, that takes a lot of not just a physical discipline but mental discipline. And you know, yeah.
I mean, that's why it's so wonderful.
Yeah, definitely.
And again, it takes the worst propensity of our kind, our will to violence, you understand, right? Yeah. And turns it into something potentially transcendental. I mean, that's an amazing thing to articulate. I mean, damn, yeah. Right? You know,
so as a way of using your life or spending your life, you know, like that is a, you know, probably a lot better way than all these, you know, terrible alternatives we've been talking about.
Indeed, indeed. You know, and again, once we start looking around for, you know, expressions of life that will envelop us, you know, in focus, in discipline, in wonder, and in joy, you know, they're all over the place. They're all over the place. And the terrible sorrow of our kind is so few people take advantage of these things, yeah. Right? We end up moving in this tiny little redundant circle, this endless. I told you, one of my peers said to me with such arrogance in her voice, yes, for those of us who've been around the block. And I said to her, yeah, but we keep going around the same block, you know? There's a city out there, yeah?
Seriously. Yeah. And so, like, what we're talking about now is, you know, elevating your quality of life by, you know, things that you can do. And a lot of people don't even get to that point because they spend so much time, you know, just being bogged down by their own mental state. So once you overcome.
If I may, you're right so far, but the thing is, it's not their mental state. It's an imposed mental state. It's what they've learned from others without questioning it, you see, right? So this is why self-reflection is so fundamentally important. You understand? Yeah. By the way, this is what justifies psychotherapy at its best. Is you are in a setting where you know that you are going to investigate your value system, your belief system, right? And then really go after why you believe what you believe and value what you value and how valid it is, right? That is a good use of life.
Yeah.
Now has become sloppier and sloppier and sloppier because of the insurance conglomerate, turning it into, instead of mental dis-ease, right, mental confusion, it's now about disease, right? It's now about disorder. So this now takes people into terrible victimization, which is not what it was about 50 years ago. It was not what it was about. Yeah. So it's degraded like so many other things degrade after a while. Yeah. Huh?
Yeah, two things is the terrible drugs that all the people my age are prescribed by the doctors, and then also they truly believe that they are depressed and that they are these things, which they'll list off their symptoms, and I'm like, I suffer those things. I feel like everybody has those same things, but that doesn't mean we're depressed. That means we're people. We're human beings.
Depressed now, it has this depressed, right? Really, I used to periodically with my peers, other psychotherapists, when they would psycho jargon at me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that person's codependent. That person is bipolar. It's like, I want you to say it using different language. Say it using human speak. What are you talking about, right? And they couldn't do it because there's such catchphrases, right, that are actually kind of empty. Depression is not depression. Depression is despair. That's what it is. In the human realm, it's despair. Huh? So let's deal with despair.
Yeah.
Yes?
So this is an example. This person said that they have trouble leaving their house. Not leaving their house, like they're not agoraphobic. They can leave their house, but like, okay, they'll have like the day off and they want to go out somewhere, but they'll sit inside their house building it up and making it such a big deal that the time they could have just gone and done it, they've sat there and freaked themselves out and gotten all crazy and then not done it and then gotten sad because they didn't do it, and then now they think they're depressed, and it's all a depression cycle that they can't get out.
I would also say that entire scenario is neurotic. Yes, and that person would need to talk to somebody to see if they could sidestep the conviction that is a valid way to go somewhere.
Yeah, or like they had to do something. They had to run an errand that day, and instead of running the errand, they just built it up in their mind, didn't do it, didn't go out, and then felt crappy because they didn't accomplish their goal.
Right. Well, that is, I'm sorry, but that is neurotic. That is. I mean, that is not, again, you measure neurosis professionally, right, as how much do these ideas impede a person's capacity to be in life, right, in an open way. Yes?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So this person was saying it was depression, and I don't know if that's the right label for it.
I would have to talk to that person, for at least 4 or 5 hours to humbly be able to figure out what was going on. Yes? Yeah? I would say that depression is the word that is used societally in America, right? But depression can be sadness. Depression can be despair. Depression can be suicidal despair, right? So once again, there's a spectrum within that one word, right, which we use for everything.
Yeah, be all catch all. Yeah. So I'm not going to say any more about this person. It's a girl. She's a younger girl. But there's a lot of females that I talked to where they label themselves as depressed and then say their symptoms, and that maybe that was an extreme version, but where it's not so extreme, it's less extreme than that, where it's like maybe that's something that we all suffer through sometimes, but I don't know if that means
it is. Of course it is. Life's hard. Life's hard. Yeah. It's beautiful and it's hard. You dig? Yes. The concern here is how much that person is using that label, right, to victimize herself and therefore have no real responsibility to any other aspect of life.
I would say a large majority, totally, like they are 100% using that as a label to then stay in that cycle and not, I am depressed, so there's nothing I can do. The only thing I can do is take drugs.
You cannot expect me to do anything of responsibility, of caring, of, right? Yeah. Well, this is, and I do think that, there's an undercurrent that is not being talked enough about, right? Which is everybody is quietly considering apocalypse now.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, God, it's real, and that will put a dent in your day. You understand me? Right? Now, if I may, back in 2000, when Y2K was happening, people asked me if I was not afraid of the apocalypse. And I said, I'm afraid of my apocalypse.
Yeah, seriously. Right? Yeah. I mean, we're all gonna go. So the world exploding doesn't scare me any more than the fact that I'm gonna go.
I mean, that will then be my apocalypse, as opposed to my apocalypse being dying of of old age.
Yeah.
So the answer is, once again, that while I'm aware of it, it's not an overwhelming thing since I have my own apocalypse anyway.
Yeah, 100%. No, I totally.
Well done. Well done. Well done.
Yeah.
So you understand that in that acknowledgement, there's a little bit of freedom, conscious freedom. You dig? And it maybe on the other side was, well, if it really is apocalypse now, then, I need to eat life with the big spoon while I can.
Yeah, a lot of my friends, peers, and even Zach and a couple other friends, they say that they're not going to have kids because they don't want to bring kids into this next world of death and despair.
Do any females say that, or is it all guys?
I know a couple girls who said it, but
it's mostly guys, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that's guys' excuse for not wanting the responsibility of having kids.
Well, I've heard girls say it too. I definitely I have a few girls.
I said the same thing back in Apocalypse Now was thermonuclear war.
Yeah.
Which again was going on, when I had to hide under desks, for Christ's sake, when I was in the second grade, as if that would help if there was a nuclear explosion.
I've always thought that was ridiculous.
Well, once again, that was sophistic.
Yeah, it's just to ease the scare, the tension.
Hi.
Because they do it now with school shootings to make all the kids get under the tables, but it's like that's not. I don't know if that's the necessarily safest place to,
It's safer. It's safer, right. Yeah, I read this morning that there was a little 9-year-old girl listening to music, and some guy was shooting at another guy who was trying to rob him, and the family was yelling, "Get down, get down, get down." The little girl had her earphones on, didn't hear it, and she was shot and killed.
Holy Jesus Christ. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, her apocalypse now was apocalypse now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So again, here once again are these ideas that at face value have merit, right? Have reality, but there's no real point to it. There's no point to it, and then if that then dictates the way you look at life, right? You're really kind of short-sighting yourself. You're not allowing yourself the full range of just, again, if nothing else, mental consideration of what's going on. Yeah. Huh?
And as we've talked about at the beginning of this, there is a lot of alternatives, and there's so much more that can, if we rewind to what we said at the beginning, there's so many different ways of experiencing, like, I don't remember what we're talking about, but of experiencing the greatness of life. And
we were talking about that started with looking at Kawasi Asui last night after Qigong. Yes?
Yeah.
Everybody was uplifted. It's like, oh God, look at that. Oh man, that's so beautiful. Oh, right?
Yeah.
All of us were like, oh shit, look at that. Yeah? Now, does that help with COVID? No. Does that help with Apocalypse Now? No. Does it allow us more energy? Yes.
Yeah.
And then with more energy, we might then want to be of more service to others. You dig? Yes? Maybe. Yeah.
And also, and then also, this is, I don't know if I don't want to take away from what you said, because what you said is much more important, way more important. But also, it might give us more energy to take care of ourselves. People, like you're saying, like they don't exercise, they don't eat healthy, they don't take care of themselves because they think they're depressed, and then they go in these cycles of depression and
well, if you don't mind, the fact is, if we jumped over taking care of ourselves, which again is you got to be very careful with that. But if we were just to jump over that, over that, and I mean, yesterday, I'm not going to brag, but the fact is, I gave $10 to a gal with her daughter who were living in their car.
Yeah.
Well, again, the little girl smiled, the mom was more than happy, and I was glad that I could be of service, right? So it was win, win, win. You understand?
Yeah.
Because I acknowledged that I have enough overflow in my life, right, on so many levels that I can gladly afford to give something back. Yes?
Yeah. No, it's important, definitely.
Right? And again, if that was our norm instead of gimme, right, how would it be here?
Right.
Yeah. So even if it's idealistic, the fact is it's still a good idea as a mirror about how we live. Huh?
Definitely, yeah, no, 100%. No, I was saying that, yeah, that was way more important than what I was saying. But I was just saying, just to bring it back to what we were talking about earlier, is people don't even help themselves because they're so bogged down with just their their idea of being depressed or whatever. And but then my whole thing was about energy.
Idea of how life has ripped them off. Come on, dude. Yes or no? Right? How life has ripped them off.
Yeah,
Huh?
and that they can't overcome those things. It's impossible to overcome.
Hi, hi. Now, I know your past, right? You have overcome a hell of a lot of difficulties. You've done that, dude. Yes? Right? Done that, right? I mean, do you feel that your life is so burdensome that you cannot have degrees of joy?
Yeah, no, not at all. Yeah, I mean,
Not at all, right? Well done. Well done.
yeah, I'm
Well,
thinking of like any piece of trauma that it's not, so it's not like a lasting, it hasn't like scarred me. It hasn't left like a hole, maybe somewhere that I don't know in my subconscious, but like,
I mean, it doesn't matter if you don't know. This is one of the stupidities of Western psychology. It's like there's all this hidden stuff.
yeah,
If it's hidden, then who cares?
yeah,
Right?
yeah, exactly. And so I think if not me personally, but if anybody else was walking in the same shoes as me and used those traumas to be like, I can't do anything, and now I'm going to blame everybody else for my downfalls. That's all on them. It's all, it's
Right. And if I may, is that kind of not the norm of the masses of our kind?
yeah, no, definitely.
Which is a heartbreak.
Yeah.
That's a heartbreak. It's heartbreaking. Dude, I think we're up there. I think we're
Oh,
beyond.
oh yeah, we're 10. I didn't know this.
All right, excellent, young blood. So, let's just keep on with this. But again, we're going back to each one of us, right? Paradoxically, we have companionship, right? But we are also like Layman Pang, right? We keep company with no thing except eternity.
Yeah.
Well, that's a very vaulted relationship. You know what I'm saying, right? And deserves a little bit of thought. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it almost doesn't even make sense because the two are such, we are alone with everything,
Hi,
so,
hi,
two
hi,
contrary ideas are,
hi.
but
Paradoxical. Paradoxical.
yeah,
Remember Suzuki Roshi. If it's not paradoxical, it's not true. That is not sophistry. That is a fact. And again, why is it important? Because you can gain nourishment from that. We can be in the incredible miracle of companionship. We can also be in the incredible miracle of being alone in eternity, not in Santa Fe. Dig, right? In eternity. This is real. This is happening. We have relationship with this. Yes, we are this. Yeah.
and then
Huh?
there's no time to complain about, freaking the overdue bills or, or whatever crap that, like it seems like there's less time for me if you are in that state of mind.
Hi. Hi. So again, and so what we're about is making that more and more and more our return, right?
Yeah.
I go out into lunacy, selfishness, envy, all the rest of it. But my return is no longer chewing on those resentments, right? My return is wonder because it's wondrous. And you know this. You know this. Yes. Well, again, to push the fact that life is wondrous is a
Yeah.
really good use of life. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're just reiterating ourselves now, but we all come back to the state of, not we, not you, me, but so many people come back to the state of return as complaint, as
Right.
not at odds with everything.
Indeed. That's why our redundancy doesn't matter. It's important.
Yeah.
Yes, to counter the redundancy of life's a bitch and then you die. You know why? Because you're gonna die.
Yeah, well, it's true.
All right, young blood. I love you. I'll see you next time.